Ethan Cole had always thought of himself as just another engineer. It's working on spaceships, repairing satellites, or troubleshooting defense systems across human colonies was all routine to him. Until the day he found himself standing in front of the most powerful being in the galaxy, the alien queen of Verelia. And she was staring at him in a way that made him feel as if every thought in his head had been stripped bare. The palace of Verelia was unlike any place Ethan had ever seen. Towering spires of crystalline material stretched up into the lavender sky. The building shimmered with colors that seemed to shift depending on the angle of the sun. At first glance, the entire city appeared alive, as if it pulsed with energy. Ethan's shuttle landed on a smooth platform that reflected the sky so perfectly it was like walking on liquid glass. He was not alone. A small team of human diplomats and engineers accompanied him, each equally nervous. None of them had ever expected to meet the Queen in person. Their mission was straightforward: repair the planetary defense grid that had mysteriously failed weeks ago. But somehow, the Queen herself had insisted on seeing the human team personally. Ethan swallowed hard as the palace doors opened. Inside, the throne room was vast, enormous beyond belief. The walls seemed made of living crystal that hummed softly, resonating with a deep, almost musical vibration. At the far end, sitting on a throne carved from pure iridescent stone, was Queen Soralith. She was breathtaking, tall, slender, and insectoid in appearance. Her body was covered in crystalline armor-like exoskeletons that glowed faintly in the light. Her many-faceted eyes reflected everything in the room, but for some reason, they seemed to focus on him alone. Her elongated head tilted slightly, and her multi-jointed limbs rested gracefully on the throne. There was power in her presence, but also curiosity and intensity that made Ethan's stomach twist with both awe and fear. The room fell silent. The human delegation exchanged nervous glances. Translators whispered into their communicators, but no one dared speak. Ethan felt as though every heartbeat was amplified. Then, Queen Soralith's voice echoed through the chamber, clear and calm, but commanding enough to make everyone pause. "Are you single, human?" The word struck Ethan like a lightning bolt. He blinked. A single, simple question, yet it carried a weight that made the room feel heavier. The diplomats looked shocked. The translators froze, trying to process the alien's syntax and idiom. Ethan's mouth opened and closed. Yes," he stammered, not quite sure if he had answered correctly. The Queen's multifaceted eyes seemed to narrow slightly, not in anger, but in amusement. "Interesting," she murmured. She leaned forward, her translucent wings flicking softly behind her. The sound was like wind through glass. "Very interesting indeed." Ethan cleared his throat. I'm here to repair the defense grid." "Sir," he said, hoping that addressing her formally would buy him some safety. She gave a soft laugh, a sound that was both musical and slightly unsettling. "I am aware of your mission, human. But some matters, even in times of crisis, require personal consideration." For the rest of the delegation, the Queen's attention was like a spotlight. They tried to introduce themselves, speak diplomatically, and remind her of protocol. But she seemed utterly uninterested in anything but Ethan, the human translator. Whispered hurriedly in his earpiece, "She's asking about your personal status for a bonding ritual, perhaps?" "Bonding ritual?" Ethan repeated, confused. "Yes," the translator said cautiously. "In Verelian culture, the Queen sometimes selects a partner for life bonding, which is, well, a sort of personal and political alliance combined. Strengthens the royal bloodline and enhances leadership qualities." Ethan's mind spun. A life bond. With me? But I'm just a human engineer. Queen Soralith rose gracefully from her throne, her wings spreading wide. Her steps echoed in the crystalline chamber as she approached him. Ethan instinctively stepped back, feeling the chill of fear and awe combined. She stopped a few meters away, tilting her head as if examining him closely. "You are different," she said softly. "Your physiology, your mind, unusual for your kind. I am curious." Ethan swallowed, trying to find the right words. To say I'm just here to silence, she interrupted, though not harshly. There is time for words later. For now, presence will suffice. She circled him slowly, her glowing eyes examining every inch. Most of your kind would be. Unremarkable, but you, human. You are remarkable, the words made Ethan's head spin. He had never been called remarkable by anyone, certainly not a being who looked like she could crush him with one hand. And yet, the Queen's tone was not threatening. It was intrigued. Tell me, she continued, do you understand our customs? I've read some things. I know about your culture, your life-bonding rituals, your honor codes, Ethan admitted. Then you know enough, she said. Her voice was calm, but carried an authority that made him feel simultaneously small and important. I will observe you, learn from you, compatible. Perhaps we shall bond. If not, your mission will continue, and you may return to your kind. The rest of the delegation looked uneasy. They whispered to each other, unsure whether to intervene. The Varelian guards, tall and imposing, watched silently, their crystalline spears glinting in the chamber light. Ethan nodded cautiously, unsure. If he was agreeing to something that would change his life forever, or merely agreeing to polite observation? Either way, he had no choice but to comply. The Queen gestured toward the balcony overlooking the city. Walk with me, human. Show me your thoughts through your actions. Your kind often reveals itself through simple choices. As they moved through the palace corridors, Ethan tried to process the situation. Everything about this world was overwhelming. The walls were alive, pulsing softly as if they were breathing. The air was thick with the scent of strange flowers, and faint musical vibrations ran through the ground with each step. So, what should I do? Ethan asked quietly, more to himself than to her. Observe, she replied simply. Adapt. Show your values, and do not be afraid. Ethan chuckled nervously. That's easier said than done, Your Majesty. She tilted her head, her eyes glinting. Your humor is unexpected. It pleases me. For a moment, the tension eased. Ethan realized that despite the strangeness of the situation, he was not being attacked. In fact, the Queen seemed genuinely curious about him. And curiosity, he had learned in his work, could be more dangerous than outright hostility. Balcony opened onto a view of the city, which was breathtaking. Spires rose high into the lavender sky, connected by crystalline bridges that shimmered like liquid silver. Flying creatures, semi-transparent and luminescent, glided between the towers. Ethan felt a strange sense of awe, the kind that made him realize just how small humanity truly was. Queen Sorelith hovered beside him, her wings catching the sunlight. What do you see, human? She asked. Ethan squinted, trying to find the words. A world. It's beautiful. Alive. So much bigger than anything I've ever known. Good, she said, nodding. You notice details? You appreciate life. That is rare. As they walked back into the palace, Ethan began to feel a mix of fear, fascination, and a strange thrill. He had never expected to meet an alien queen, let alone be singled out by her. And yet something inside him told him that this was only the beginning. The first step in a journey that could change not only his life but perhaps the fate of two worlds. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Ethan was shown the inner workings of the palace, introduced to the royal aides, and gently tested on his adaptability to Varelian culture. Every question, every glance, seemed to circle back to the Queen herself. He felt her attention like a tangible force, weighing him, studying him, and perhaps choosing him. That night, as he lay in the quarters assigned to him, Ethan stared out at the glowing city below. He could still hear the Queen's question echoing in his mind. Are you single? Human? He didn't know what the future held. He didn't know if he was ready for what was coming. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same. Again, and somewhere deep in the palace, Queen Sorelith was watching him, curious, patient, and completely certain that this human was extraordinary. Ethan awoke the next morning to the soft hum of the palace. The walls around his quarters seemed to breathe, as if the entire building were alive. He rubbed his eyes and looked out the tall window. The The city of Varelia shimmered under the violet dawn, each crystal spire catching the rising light and scattering it in rainbow-like patterns across the sky. It was beautiful, but it was also intimidating. Every corner of this alien world reminded him how far from Earth he truly was. A soft chime echoed through his quarters. He froze. The sound was unlike any human alarm. It resonated in his chest, making him feel unsteady. Moments later, a servant, tall, elegant, an insectoid like the queen, entered. "The queen requests your presence, human," the servant said. Her voice was melodic, almost musical, yet every word carried authority. "You are to accompany her for a briefing on the planetary defense grid." Ethan swallowed hard. "Right, of course," he said. He followed her through the palace corridors, each step echoing against the living crystal walls. He felt as if he were moving through a dream, a strange, beautiful, and dangerous dream. When they arrived in the throne room, Queen Sorelith was already standing, her wings slightly spread. She looked at him with the same intense gaze as yesterday, as if she could see into his very thoughts. "Human," she said, her voice smooth yet commanding. "You must understand something about our customs. Life bonding is not a casual choice. It is a ritual that connects to beings on mental, emotional, and physiological levels. It is not merely companionship, it is strength, unity, and survival." Ethan nodded, trying to keep up. I understand, Your Majesty. I didn't mean to offend." Sorelith's multifaceted eyes glimmered. "You do not offend. You are intriguing." The queen motioned for him to follow her. They walked to a large chamber filled with floating holographic maps and displays. Ethan's translator buzzed softly in his ear. "Here," the translator whispered, "is where they track the defense grid. You will need to work closely with her engineers." Ethan blinked. "With the Queen's engineers?" "Yes. In Varelia, the Queen's personal engineers are among the most skilled in the galaxy. You will be observed. Your skills, your methods, your creativity, all will be evaluated. If compatible, the life bond may proceed. If not, you may continue your mission and return home." Ethan swallowed. He had always worked with humans. Engineers, scientists, diplomats, all familiar. But this was another level. Oh. And the stakes were personal. The chamber was a marvel. Crystalline panels floated in midair, projecting schematics of the planetary defense network. Ethan was handed a tablet-like device and asked to analyze the system. As he worked, Sorelith observed, standing behind him, wings folded gracefully. "You notice the inefficiency in this relay system," she commented. Ethan nodded, impressed that she had noticed the same detail he had immediately. "Yes, the primary energy conduit is unstable. If one section fails, the whole grid fluctuates." "Correct," she said. "Most of our engineers would overlook this. Your species has ingenuity." He felt a small thrill. Despite her alien demeanor, she had complimented him. That small acknowledgement made the stress slightly easier to bear. Over the next few hours, Ethan worked alongside the Queen's engineers. They were fast, precise, and brilliant, but rigid. When he suggested a slight redesign to stabilize the energy flow, some of the engineers whispered nervously among themselves. It was clear that human methods were unusual to them. Sorelith noticed, "Do not be constrained by their traditions, human," she said. "Innovation is strength. I value it." For the first time, Ethan realized that she genuinely respected his mind. And that respect, coming from the Queen, was more powerful than any authority he had ever known. As the day passed, Ethan began to understand a little about the Varelians. They were not merely insectoid in appearance. Their minds were structured differently. They valued precision, logic, and honor. Emotion existed, but it was expressed subtly, carefully, almost like a hidden energy. The Queen, however, had a curiosity and warmth that set her apart from the rest of her people. During a short break, she guided him to a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. Strange plants glowed faintly in the twilight, and translucent creatures floated among the trees. Sarilith hovered beside him. "You have adapted quickly, human," she said. "Most of your kind would struggle with our ways. You not only adapt, but also contribute?" Ethan smiled nervously. "I guess I'm just used to problem-solving under pressure." She tilted her head, her many eyes reflecting his face. "Your species is resilient. That is why you intrigue me. Most beings, even intelligent ones, are predictable. You are not." For a moment they were silent. The wind carried the faint hum of the palace, and Ethan felt a strange connection to this alien world, sensed that he was part of something bigger than himself. Their quiet was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed across the palace. Floor and the floating displays in the chamber blinked urgently. Ethan's translator buzzed frantically. "Unauthorized breach detected in the outer perimeter," it said. Soralis's wings snapped outward as she moved toward the chamber. "Show me the location." Holographic maps highlighted the area. Ethan's eyes widened. "It's one of the outer relay stations. If it's sabotaged, the entire defense grid could fail."
Exactly, Saralis said. "It is your expertise."
"That may prevent disaster, human. Will you help?" Ethan hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Yes, I'll do everything I can." They arrived at the outer station, which was perched on a rocky outcrop above a glowing river of energy. The structure was enormous, more advanced than anything Ethan had ever seen, but signs of tampering were clear. Panels were removed, wires cut, and protective fields partially disabled. As they worked, Sorellis engineers stood back watching. Ethan's hands moved quickly and precisely. He recalibrated the energy conduits, rewired the disrupted circuits, and stabilized the system. Sorellis observed closely, occasionally pointing out adjustments. "You think quickly," she said, her voice calm. "Your species has ingenuity, as I suspected." Hours passed, and finally the system hummed steadily. The lights on the panels turned green, and the energy flowed normalized. Ethan leaned against a console, exhausted but proud. Sorelith hovered beside him, wings slightly folded, her eyes reflecting admiration. "You have done well, human. This was not an easy task. Many of my people would have failed." Ethan shook his head, still catching his breath. "I just did what I could. Your engineers are brilliant too." She smiled, a subtle movement of her mandibles and eyes, but unmistakable. "Yes, but your perspective is different, valuable." They returned to the palace. Ethan realized that something had changed. He was no longer just a visitor or a repairman. In the Queen's eyes, he saw respect, curiosity, and perhaps something more. The next morning, Sorlith summoned him again. "You have proven your skill, human, and you have proven your mind. Now it is time for the next step." Ethan's heart pounded. Next step. Yes, the council will observe you and me. They will test your compatibility for life bonding. It is unusual for a human to be considered, but I am certain your qualities deserve evaluation. Nodded, a mix of fear and excitement running through him. He had never imagined that his journey to Varelia would bring him here to stand beside a queen. Not as a subject, but as a potential partner, as he walked through the palace halls. Ethan wondered what awaited him. He knew the trial would be difficult. The council was known for being strict, unforgiving, and steeped in tradition. And yet he also knew that the Queen's trust in him gave him a rare advantage. That night, as he lay in his quarters, he could still hear the Queen's words echoing in his mind. "Your species is resilient. That is why you intrigue me." Ethan realized something profound. On this distant world, among beings far more advanced than humans, he had a chance to prove that humanity's ingenuity, courage, and heart could stand alongside the greatest minds in the galaxy. And perhaps, he thought, with a mix of awe and determination, he could also earn the respect and maybe even the affection of the alien queen herself. Ethan Cole had spent days learning about Varelian culture, mastering basic etiquette, and assisting the Queen's engineers in stabilizing the planetary defense grid. But nothing had prepared him for what awaited him now. The Council Trial's Queen. Soralit's private chambers were a mix of beauty and intimidation. Crystalline panels floated around the room, projecting images of Virelia's history, battle strategies, and the genealogies of its noble houses. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive, and the air carried a musical hum. Ethan followed the queen, trying to suppress his nervousness. Today he would face the council, and his potential fate as the queen's life-bonded partner. "Human," Sorella said, her tone calm but firm. "These trials will test your mind, your morals, and your adaptability. You must remain yourself, but also show your ability to understand and respect our ways." Ethan nodded, swallowing hard. "I'll do my best, Your Majesty." She smiled faintly, a subtle movement of her mandibles. "Good, your species' creativity may help you, if you are wise." The council chamber was massive. Members of the ruling class, tall, imposing Virelians, each adorned with ceremonial armor and crystalline adornments, sat in a semicircle around a central platform. Their multifaceted eyes glimmered as they studied him. Ethan felt a sudden chill. "You are the human the queen has chosen for observation," one council member said in a voice that rumbled like distant thunder. "Explain why you believe you are worthy to be considered for life bonding." Ethan took a deep breath. I don't know if I am worthy, but I've worked to understand your culture, learn your customs, and contribute to your people's safety. I hope my actions, not just words, show my commitment." A murmur ran through the council. Some heads tilted in curiosity, others in skepticism. The council member spoke again. "Many of your kind are impulsive, emotional, and untested in leadership. Why should we trust a human with this bond?" Ethan met their gaze, steadying himself. "Because my kind can adapt. We learn quickly. We solve problems in unexpected ways. I've helped stabilize your defense grid, and I've faced challenges you might not expect from a human. I may not be like you, but that difference can be a strength." Silence fell. Then a Virelian noble with long, silver-tinted wings leaned forward. Bold words. "Human. But words mean little. We shall test you." Ethan nodded, trying to remain calm. The first trial was a mental exercise. Holographic panels rose around him, projecting a complex network of energy pathways. The challenge was to identify the most efficient flow, prevent overloads, maintain system stability. He worked quickly, analyzing the patterns and making precise adjustments. The council watched closely, whispering among themselves. Sorella hovered behind him, her presence a steady reassurance. "You are competent," one council member admitted grudgingly.
Oh.
"But the true test is not intellect alone." Next came the moral trial. Holographic scenarios appeared, simulating situations where he had to make difficult ethical choices, prioritizing some lives over others, managing scarce resources, and deciding between loyalty and practicality. Ethan faced each scenario with thoughtfulness, weighing consequences carefully. "Your empathy is unusual for a human," another council member said. "Most of your kind are self-serving, yet you demonstrate consideration." Ethan realized that this was not just a test of intelligence, but of character. The Virelians valued honor, respect, and foresight. Unlike humans, who often relied on instinct, they expected decisions to reflect responsibility and wisdom. After hours of trials, the council paused. "The final test is adaptability," a member announced. "Must navigate a simulated crisis, combining intellect, ethics, and creativity." A holographic city appeared, under attack from alien ships. Ethan's mind raced. He recognized patterns in the energy flows, weaknesses in the defense grid, and potential evacuation routes. Using both human ingenuity and lessons he had learned from Sorellith's engineers, he devised a plan to protect civilians, repel the attackers, and stabilize the system. The council watched, astonished as the simulation ended successfully. "Remarkable," the first member said. "You handled a scenario far beyond human capability." Sorellith's wings shimmered with approval. "Indeed, he is exceptional," she said softly, though the council heard her words. Some members shifted uneasily. Tradition held that no human had ever passed all trials. Many whispered concerns about the bond being unnatural, risky, or even politically dangerous. Ethan noticed the tension but felt confident, strengthened by his determination and the Queen's support. After the trials, Soralith escorted him back to her chambers. "You did well, human," she said. "The council will deliberate, but I am pleased with your performance." Ethan exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and pride. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I hope I can continue to prove myself." "I have already done so," she said. "This is only the beginning. Life bonding is more than trials. It is trust, connection, and unity. Are you prepared for that?" Ethan hesitated, thinking of everything that had happened, the Queen's gaze, trials, the alien world, and the responsibilities he had taken on. I think I am. I want to try." Sorelith nodded, her eyes reflecting satisfaction. "Good. Then we wait for the council's decision. Meanwhile, you must rest and continue to observe our ways." The next days passed with lessons in culture, rituals, and diplomacy. Ethan learned how Varelians communicated through subtle movements, how honor dictated every choice, and how unity was valued above all. Sorelith encouraged his questions and explanations of human traditions, often smiling at his attempts to bridge the cultural gap. One evening, while walking through the palace gardens, Sorelith stopped beside a glowing fountain. Like liquid crystal and strange luminous plants swayed gently around them. "Human," she said softly, "you have faced the council trials with courage and integrity. That is rare even among my people. I see in you qualities that could complement mine if we are compatible." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. I want to understand your world, your people, and you, Your Majesty. I never imagined any of this." Sorelith hovered closer, her wings brushing lightly against the soft glow of the garden. "Few humans are remarkable. Fewer still can survive the scrutiny of my council. You have done so, and more. That is why I'm curious about you. Yond? Mere duty or politics?" Ethan's mind raced. This was unprecedented. He had expected challenges, but not interest. Personal interest from a queen of an alien world. His heart pounded, yet he remained composed. I will do my best to honor that trust," he said. Just then, an alert rang through the palace. The outer security network had detected unusual activity near one of the planetary outposts. Ethan's training and experience kicked in immediately. Sorelith glanced at him, eyes sharp and focused. "Are you prepared to act human?" she asked. "Always," Ethan replied. They hurried to the communication hub. Holographic displays showed a small fleet of unauthorized vessels approaching the planet's atmosphere. Their shapes were strange, fast-moving, and potentially hostile. Soralith's wings flexed, her posture tense. This could be a test or a threat. Either way, your ingenuity is needed. Working together, Ethan and the Queen's engineers devised a strategy to intercept and neutralize the threat. Using a combination of human improvisation and Varelian technology, they redirected energy flows, reinforced planetary shields, and created decoy signals. The alien fleet, confused and overwhelmed, was repelled without major conflict. Soralith's people were impressed. Ethan's quick thinking and unconventional methods had saved the planet from potential sabotage or invasion. Afterward, as the council reconvened, the members were quiet. Many were skeptical of the human, yet his actions spoke louder than words. The first member leaned forward. "Perhaps humans are not as limited as we believed." Sorelith's eyes gleamed with approval. "He is not merely competent, he is extraordinary." Ethan, standing beside her, felt a mix of pride and disbelief. He had faced trials, navigated culture, and saved a world, and still he was not finished. This was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge him, unite him with the Queen, test the very limits of what it meant to be human in the galaxy. That night, Ethan looked out at the glowing city. Aurelia seemed alive, watching and waiting. And somewhere in the palace, Queen Soralith observed him as well, curious, patient, and increasingly certain that this human might not just survive, but thrive alongside her. The council had spent the night in deep deliberation, yet when Ethan returned to the throne room the next morning, their expressions were tense and guarded. Some of the nobles whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with doubt and skepticism. Ethan felt the weight of their judgment, but he also sensed a subtle shift, curiosity, interest, and even admiration for the human would pass the council trials and help to repel the mysterious fleet. Queen Sorala's gaze, however, remained fixed on him with quiet intensity. "The council has spoken," she announced, her voice calm, yet commanding. "They recognize your abilities, human. Yet there are those who oppose your inclusion in life bonding. You must understand, not all will accept this. Some may try to test you, even endanger you, to prove their point." Ethan's chest tightened. He had expected scrutiny, but not danger. I'll face whatever comes," he said, his voice steady, despite the adrenaline racing through him. Sorelith inclined her head. "Good. For trust is not simply given, it is earned. And sometimes it must be defended." The day began with routine work, Ethan helping the Queen's engineers fine-tune the planetary defense grid, but beneath the calm, tension simmered. He noticed subtle signs. Doors left ajar, glances exchanged between nobles, whispers that halted when he approached. Something was amiss. Late in the afternoon, a sudden alarm shattered the usual hum of the palace. Red lights flashed across the halls, and the vibration of the crystalline walls grew intense. Ethan's translator buzzed urgently in his ear. "Unauthorized. Breach detected at the main energy relay station." "Sabotage suspected?" "Sabotage?" Ethan muttered, heart pounding. "Who would?" "Someone opposed to your presence," Sorella said sharply. "The council's discontent runs deep, some fear change. They fear a human's influence over the Queen. We must act quickly." He hurried through the palace corridors, the soft hum of the living walls now resonating with urgency. Sorelith moved with fluid grace, wings brushing lightly against the air while Ethan followed, adrenaline sharpening his senses. Arriving at the outer station, the damage was clear. Panels were ripped from their mounts, wires snipped, and energy conduits destabilized. Sparks flew from exposed circuits, and a low hum of unstable energy filled the chamber. Ethan took a deep breath, quickly assessing the situation. "This is deliberate," he said, moving to stabilize the system. "Someone knows what they're doing. They want the grid to fail completely." Sorella's wings flexed as she hovered beside him. "Do what your kind does best, human. Solve problems others cannot." Ethan worked swiftly, reconnecting circuits, rerouting energy flows, and recalibrating the unstable systems. The sabotage was complex, far more intricate than any accident or mechanical failure. He realized that whoever was responsible had intimate knowledge of the palace's systems. Likely a member of the inner circle, as he worked, Sorelith monitored the energy readings, her eyes sharp and focused. "You are quick, human," she said, "but speed alone is not enough. Precision is needed." Ethan nodded, concentrating. His fingers moved over the panels, repairing the damage, rerouting power, and reinforcing the energy conduits. Every second mattered. If the main relay failed, the entire planetary defense grid could collapse, leaving Varelia vulnerable to attack. Hours passed, and finally the system stabilized. The lights on the panels turned a steady green, and the low hum of unstable energy subsided. Etha exhaled, exhausted but relieved. Sorelith hovered closer, her wings folding gracefully. "You have done well, human. This was no simple challenge. Many of my people would have failed." Ethan shook his head. "I just did what needed to be done. I couldn't let your world be in danger." She regarded him quietly for a moment, her eyes reflecting admiration. "It is not merely your skill that impresses me. It is your courage, your resolve, and your ability to act under pressure. These are qualities I value deeply." Before Ethan could respond, the palace alert system sounded again. This time, it was not a technical failure, but a direct threat. The conspirators had attempted to infiltrate the palace itself, aiming for the Queen. "Stay close," Sorella commanded, wings expanding. "We must move quickly." They navigated the palace's hidden corridors, passages known only to the royal family and their trusted guards. Ethan followed closely, heart racing. He realized that this was no ordinary political maneuver. Someone was willing to risk violence to oppose him. They emerged into the central hall, where the conspirators had begun their assault. A group of heavily armed Varelians loyal to the dissenting nobles had breached the security perimeter. Ethan's mind raced. He had never fought before, not in a physical sense, but he knew strategy. Using his knowledge of the palace layout and the energy systems, he quickly devised a plan. "Sorelith, if we can reroute the energy fields through the central conduits, we can create a temporary barrier," he said. The Queen nodded. "Do it." Working together, Ethan and Sorelith redirected the energy. Panels glowed, channels hummed, and a translucent barrier surged around the central hall. The conspirators were halted, unable to advance. "You are clever, human," Sorelith said, her voice calm but filled with admiration. "Few would have thought to use the palace's own systems as a defense." Ethan felt a surge of relief and pride. "I just did what made sense." The confrontation was not over. The conspirators regrouped, attempting to breach the barrier. With tools and weapons, Ethan, thinking quickly, activated a series of emergency protocols he had learned during his work on the defense grid. Energy pulses surged from the walls. Forcing the intruders back, Sorelith moved with fluid grace, her wings deflecting attacks and her limbs striking with precision. Together, human ingenuity and Varelian skill proved unstoppable. Within moments, the conspirators were contained and the palace was secure. The aftermath was tense. Guards rounded up the offenders, while the Queen addressed the council. "Let this be a lesson," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Change is not a threat to our strength, it is a path to survival. The human beside me has proven himself capable, loyal, and brave. Those who oppose this bond jeopardize not only themselves, but the entire planet." Some council members bristled, but even they could not deny Ethan's contribution. His quick thinking and calm under pressure had saved the palace and demonstrated his worth. After the council meeting, Sorelith guided Ethan to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow across the crystal spires. Ethan sank to the ground, exhausted but exhilarated. "You have done more than survive, human," Sorelith said, hovering nearby. "You've shown your courage, your mind, and your heart. This is why I chose to observe you." Ethan looked at her, awe and gratitude in his eyes. "I didn't expect any of this. I just wanted to help." "You have helped more than you realize," she replied. "You have proven that even among the most advanced beings in the galaxy, humanity has value, strength, and resilience." A long moment, they simply watched the city below, its lights shimmering like stars. Ethan realized that he had become more than a visitor. He was part of something larger, a journey that could change the fate of Veralia and perhaps humanity itself. As night fell, the Queen spoke again. "There is still much to do, human. The Council may accept your presence, but alliances must be forged, trust maintained, and threats neutralized. Are you ready for that?" Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle. "On his shoulders I am," he said firmly. "I will face whatever comes for your world, for your people, and for you." Sorelith's eyes glimmered with approval. "Good. Then we continue. Together." And so, as the twin moons of Varelia rose in the sky, Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. He had faced sabotage, political intrigue, and danger, and he had emerged stronger, more capable, and more certain of his place beside the Queen. He did not yet know what the future would bring. But one thing was clear: his journey with Queen Sorelith was only beginning, and together they would face whatever challenges the galaxy could throw at them. The council chamber was tense that morning. The conspirators who had attempted sabotage and threatened the palace had been detained, but their influence lingered. Some council members still murmured in disapproval, wary of a human being considered. For life bonding with the Queen, Ethan could feel their skepticism like a physical weight. But beside him, Queen Sorelith stood tall and unwavering, her presence a shield against doubt. "You have faced trials, danger, and opposition, human," Sorelith said quietly, her wings folded gracefully behind her. Now, you face the final step, the Council's ultimate test. They must see, beyond any doubt, that your presence strengthens, not endangers, our world. Ethan nodded, heart pounding. I understand, Your Majesty. I'll do everything I can. The Council had prepared a scenario, a simulated planetary crisis combining sabotage, natural disaster, and strategic defense. Ethan would be responsible for coordinating the defense, protecting the population, and maintaining communication with the Queen and her forces. It was designed to test intellect, leadership, adaptability, and moral judgment. Everything that Varelians valued. The simulation began immediately. Holographic panels rose around the chamber, projecting a city under siege. Energy conduits were failing, buildings were collapsing, and citizens needed evacuation. Ethan quickly assessed the situation, noting the vulnerabilities and potential strategies. This is more complex than anything we've done before, he muttered to Sorlith. You will succeed, human, she said calmly, her eyes locking onto his. Trust yourself. Ethan took a deep breath and began issuing orders. He directed the Varelian engineers to stabilize the energy grid while organizing evacuation routes and defensive perimeters. His mind raced, analyzing patterns, predicting failures, and improvising solutions. The Council observed in silence, some skeptical, others increasingly impressed. Ethan noticed that even the harshest critics could not deny his skill. Leadership and calm under pressure. Hours passed in tense focus. Each decision had consequences. He rerouted energy conduits to protect critical infrastructure, created decoy signals to mislead potential attackers, and coordinated Varelian forces with precision. Sorelith hovered nearby, providing guidance and support while allowing him freedom to act. Finally, the simulation reached its climax. A massive energy surge threatened to collapse the city's core systems. Ethan quickly calculated a solution, redirecting excess energy into auxiliary conduits while stabilizing the main power grid. He acted decisively, and the holographic city stabilized as silence fell over the chamber. The council members whispered among themselves, astonishment evident in their multifaceted eyes. Even the most critical members nodded, some begrudgingly. Soralith's gaze softened, a subtle smile appearing on her mandibles. You have done it, human. You have proven beyond doubt your capabilities, courage, and wisdom. I'd only have you survived, but you have strengthened our world. Ethan exhaled, feeling relief and pride wash over him. I couldn't have done it without your guidance, he said honestly. You needed no guidance in critical moments, she replied. Your instincts, your creativity, and your heart led you to success. The council reconvened for a final decision. Silence filled the chamber as Soralith spoke on Ethan's behalf. He has shown his worth. His actions have proven that he is capable, loyal, and courageous. I ask that you accept him, not just as a visitor, but as my life-bonded partner. Murmurs ran through the council. Some members hesitated, still bound by tradition and fear of change. But others, impressed by Ethan's performance, voiced their support. Slowly, consensus formed. The council voted in favor, acknowledging the human's extraordinary contribution and the Queen's judgment. Ethan could hardly believe it. After weeks of trials, sabotage, and danger, he had earned the respect of an alien world and of the most powerful being in the galaxy. Sorelith approached him, her wings brushing lightly against his shoulders. Human, she said softly. You have faced every challenge and emerged stronger. You accept the bond? Ethan looked into her multifaceted eyes, feeling a connection he had never imagined possible. Yes, he said firmly. I accept, and I will honor it with everything. I am. The Queen extended a ceremonial crystal, its glow pulsing softly. Ethan placed his hand against it, and a surge of energy coursed through him. It was unlike anything he had experienced, a mix of warmth, strength, and unity. He could feel Sorelith's presence intertwining with his, a deep connection bridging species worlds. An understanding. A soft hum filled the chamber as the bond ritual completed. The council members watched in awe as the energy pulse stabilized, signifying the successful formation of the life bond. Ethan felt a sense of completion, a profound realization that he was no longer just a visitor or engineer. He was part of something greater. "Welcome, bonded partner," Sorella said, her voice gentle but powerful. "Together, we will face the challenges of this galaxy." Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of pride, awe, and gratitude. "Together," he echoed. The weeks that followed were filled with adjustments, celebrations, and new responsibilities. Ethan worked alongside Soralith, learning more about Varelian politics, culture, and technology. The people, inspired by his courage and skill, began to accept the human among them. He became not just an advisor, but a symbol, proof that humanity's ingenuity, courage, and heart could stand alongside the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. In quiet moments, the queen would walk through the palace gardens or gaze at the glowing city below. Soralith's curiosity and admiration had blossomed into mutual respect, friendship, and something deeper, a bond of trust and affection that transcended species. Ethan often reflected on his journey, from a simple engineer traveling across the stars to the human chosen by the queen. He had faced trials, danger, and doubt. Yet it was his human qualities, resilience, adaptability, and courage that had proven his worth. One evening, as the twin moons of Varelia rose in the sky, Soralith hovered beside him, wings catching the silver light. "You have changed my world, human," she said softly, "and in doing so, you have changed me." Ethan reached for her hand, feeling the connection hum softly through the crystal energy that bonded them. "And you have changed mine, Your Majesty. I never imagined I would find this, not just a world, but a purpose and someone to share it with." She smiled, a gesture that felt warm and intimate despite her alien form. "Then we face the future together, human. Not as queen and subject, but as partners, united in purpose and spirit." Ethan nodded, feeling a profound sense of belonging. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy threw at them. Threats, challenges, or wonders, united by trust, respect, in the extraordinary bond between a human and the Queen of Varelia. And so, amidst the shimmering towers and glowing skies of an alien world, Ethan Cole's story began anew. From engineer to hero, from outsider to partner, he had proven that humanity could rise, endure, and shine even among the stars. In that moment, looking into the eyes of Queen Soralith, Ethan understood that he had found more than adventure or purpose. He had found connection, courage, and the extraordinary truth that even a single human could leave a mark on an entire civilization together. They gazed at the horizon, ready for the endless possibilities of tomorrow, partners, allies, and pioneers in a galaxy full of wonder.